House of the Dragon will be back soon, and I've got some major updates to tell you about. Welcome to Echo Base Network, or EBN. We are so glad that you are here. There are a ton of major updates to address with HBO Max's House of the Dragon, and I'm going to take you through each one of those updates today. And most importantly, we're going to finish today's video with a conversation between myself and our producer here at EBN, Matt Rissman, where we're talking about what resonated with Season 1 of House of the Dragon for fans, and what are we really looking forward to for Season 2. Okay, it's update time. Buckle up and let's go. House of the Dragon was the best show in 2022. In fact, the show took home the award for Best Television Drama Series at the 2023 Golden Globes, beating out Better Call Saul, The Crown, and Ozark. Featuring an ensemble cast, House of the Dragon portrays the events leading up to the beginning of the decline of House Targaryen, a devastating war of succession known as the Dance of the Dragons. House of the Dragon is, in fact, a prequel to the Game of Thrones series. The show is based on author George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, but more specifically, House of the Dragon is based on Martin's history book, Fire and Blood. The book is credited as being written by an Archmaester of Westeros, with various accounts on what happened during the Targaryen reign. One thing that has me really excited is that we could see up to 17 different dragons in this series. But enough of that already, what about the updates? House of the Dragon Season 2 was announced in August of 2022 and confirmed on Instagram. In April of 2023, HBO Max announced that production had begun on the show's second season, and they were being filmed at Leavesden Studios in the UK. According to George R.R. Martin, House of the Dragon Season 2 was not affected by the Writers Guild Association strike, saying, "One of the few shows still shooting is House of the Dragon. All of the scripts had been finished months before the WGA strike began. No writing has been done since." He also noted that House of the Dragon is shot mostly in London, but also included Spain and Wales, and that is why filming was able to continue. The actors on House of the Dragon are members of the British union Equity, not SAG-AFTRA. And though Equity supports the SAG-AFTRA efforts, British law forbids them from staging a sympathy strike. The entire main cast will be back for Season 2, excluding the younger versions of Rhaenyra and Alicent, who were played by Millie Alcock and Emily Carney. I thought the two ladies were terrific, but the story just doesn't have room for them. Bravo, ladies, bravo. While we don't have an exact date for the Season 2 premiere, we do know that House of the Dragon Season 2 will be released in summer 2024. This latest update comes from Variety, which reported that HBO is targeting a summer 2024 premiere for the second season following the end of the writer's strike. One thing that some fans are disappointed about is that Season 2 will not have a 10-episode run as Season 1 did. HBO Max has shortened Season 2 to 8 episodes. According to Deadline, a spokesman for HBO shared the reason behind the decision is purely story-driven. But fans, let not your hearts be troubled. George R.R. Martin has all but guaranteed a third season is coming. Oops. On his website, when responding to the news of the series getting 8 Emmy nominations, Martin wrote, "I would have loved to see some of our writers, directors, and actors on the final ballot as well. You don't get to contend for Best Dramatic Series unless you have some great actors, directors, and writers working for you. Most of our team will have other shots at the prize in seasons to come." Did you catch it? Seasons to come. Thank you, George. We are joined here by none other than Mr. Producer Man talking House of the Dragon. Matt, what do you think resonates the most with fans? Why did between 10 and 25 million people watch every episode of House of the Dragon Season 1? What do we think for Season 2? This whole thing is just really, really good for the fandom. Agree or disagree?
Oh, I totally agree with you. And for me specifically, I found myself so immersed again in just the broader environment, right, where they were at, all the different places. And it didn't take long to sort of also develop affinity and understanding for the characters. For me, what really draws me into any series of any kind, right, is, do the characters resonate? Do I understand their motivations? Is there the right mix of showing and telling? And then, of course, how is the production design? You know, is it believable? Are they?
Sure.
I understand this is a fantasy show, right? But is it? You know, can I picture the place that they're at? Does it look realistic? And are they acting in a way that seems appropriate for those locales? this series does it for me, and I think it does it for a lot of people in all those areas as well.
I agree. And, it wasn't without criticism. There was a lot of people who were huge Game of Thrones fans that had an expectation going into House of the Dragon, even though that, it's generally acceptable for everybody that Game of Thrones did not end well. Like even the actors acknowledge it. But when you go into House of the Dragon and you're seeing this world again and fresh characters, new soundtrack, except for the intro, and then when the season started, I thought the casting of Rhaenyra was extremely good. And it was kind of heartbreaking to see the shift in story where she goes from young Rhaenyra to older Rhaenyra. And seeing that young actress, Millie Alcock, is no longer involved in the show. But she did such a phenomenal job, but it lends itself to the story. So even though that kind of hurt my heart a little bit, I don't get to see that awesome character anymore, the story moved forward. One thing that I think also kind of hurt, season one was the time jumps. A lot of people didn't necessarily enjoy that. You certainly didn't get that in Game of Thrones. You didn't get time jumps where 10 years went by or whatever. But I think that they're done with that at this point. We probably are not going to get any time jumps in season 2. And even with the criticism of the fans, people are still tuning in and watching. And I would say that for the most part, everything has a little bit of criticism, but for the most part, people really enjoyed this show. Like, it's something that is worthy of discussion. We stream it. We show it on Patreon where you could watch the whole episode with us. It's something that fandom actually gets excited about. And I need that in my life.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I was going to say, if I would have to put one pseudo negative on the series, which you just touched on, is you sort of develop that relationship with the younger versions of these characters. And then for me, it kind of felt like they were gone too soon. It's like, okay, we had that relationship, and then it's like, all right, now I have to develop that relationship all over again with their older versions in not half the time, but you know what I mean, right? In more of it just sort of compressed that experience, I think, in just making that relationship. And it was perfectly appropriate for the story, certainly not knocking why they did it. But on your point, it's a bit atypical, at least in all the television that I watch, to kind of go through that. And by the way, both sets of actresses were great in their own right? I don't think they made poor decisions in the casting. It is just a little jarring, right, to go from those younger versions to the older versions, but I think they pulled it off, and I think it really worked in the context of the story they were telling.
Sure, absolutely. So, your thoughts? Game of Thrones. Look, I almost said Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon season 2. Is it going to, obliterate viewership again? Is it going to set more records? It set HBO records right out of the gate. I mean, right out of the gate, it was breaking records. It's definitely at the top of the fandom's wish list. It's definitely the thing that I think people are looking forward to the most. And it's been a while. I mean, the season wrapped in 2022. Okay, wow. So we're just now starting to get close. It's going to be dropping in May or June, I believe, and that's going to get here pretty quickly. But is this thing going to just continue where it left off? Is this the kind of show, Matt, that could give us 4, 5, maybe 6 seasons? Is there enough story that they could do that?
Oh, I think so. And I have to say, I don't think they did anything towards the end of this last season that wouldn't have all those folks and maybe more coming back to see the story continue. And I know within our community, our broader community, we have a lot of people with a lot of love for House of the Dragons.
Sundowners.
Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon now that are also, quite interested and excited about where this is going. And I have to say, and I know we've said this before, but HBO sort of pioneered in their own way this excellent storytelling in a premium format, which I think everyone else from a streaming perspective has really been trying to duplicate all this time, and they're just not doing it.
No.
Right? HBO and specifically with Game of Thrones and now the series has proven they know how to write an episodic premium program that people keep coming back for time and time again. I have no reason to believe it won't be the same in season 2. And I don't think that this show will fall prey to some of the other reasons why some of the other shows may have dropped off or experienced, those ebbs and flows in viewership. At least that's my opinion.
So, that's a great comment there. Great thought. Netflix has certainly given us some shows that have been very episodic and very well written and very entertaining. You could go from, Stranger Things to now One Piece. HBO definitely has the correct formula with the world of Westeros, no doubt about it. Whether you're talking Game of Thrones or you're talking House of the Dragon, this is just something that Disney has not been able to do. It just is what it is. I'm not trying to derail the stream, but it just is what it is.
Well, I'm with you, but I think the difference is, and what's become painfully obvious, especially in a lot of the streaming content, but specifically Disney Plus as a great example, is they don't know how to do television, right? They know how to do movies, and their approaches have seemed to have been, let's take what would have been a movie and let's expand it, let's stretch it. Yeah. Right, in a way that ends up being somewhat artificial to then fulfill, 6 to 8 episodes of television, right? Whether it's Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, they wrote a TV show, right? And they proved they understand how to do that with episodes that tell a story, that move the plot along, that do so in a way that doesn't feel artificial.
Sure.
And again, I'm still watching network TV. Certain shows that have come out, some are new, some are old. And there's a huge difference in the experience that's quite noticeable between those, what I would consider to be longer format television shows. Of course, nothing's 22 to 24 episodes anymore, right? But 12 to 14 episode normal television still works, whereas a lot of these streaming series have not been able to crack that nut because I don't think they were invested in TV, right? I think they were like, let's just reuse all our film people.
Yep.
Why do we need TV people? We can just we know how to do things. Well, do they?
Yep. I completely agree. And look, I'm not trying to turn this into a Star Wars stream, but that's what Ahsoka was. They made it a movie and then they just cut it. And it's just one big long movie. And that's what they're doing with Star Wars, and that is not how you do TV. So, House of the Dragon, Season 2 is coming. We are excited about it. We will be covering it. If you want more updates, come here to Echo Base Network. Thank you so much for joining myself and Mr. Producer Man sitting over there in Nick's chair. We are Echo Base Network. See you guys on the next one.
See y'all.